Welcome to Ornamental Terrace Radio TV, and we are live once again. And today's topic, it's a doozy, folks. We are going to finally conquer what is groupthink and how it is so dangerous. We welcome again Brother Alexis Bonello to the show.
Thank you, AJ. It's always a pleasure to be on Ordo Militaris Radio TV, breaking new horizons in independent Catholic media in the English-speaking world.
Right now, there are two classes of groupthink. Go against either one, you are attacked. The first one are the Never Trumpers or the MAGA faithful. Rightly and justly criticize certain things President Trump is doing poorly, you get called a Never Trumper by everyone. Even though you voted for Trump or never criticized Trump, you're called a MAGA faithful. And it's awful among Catholics as well. If you want to just be a Catholic faithful to the 2,000-year teaching authority of the church, fathers of the church, doctors of the church, but attend the ordinary form. Oh, here comes the trad group thinkers, calling the ordinary form evil, invalid, and other terms. There's a big problem out there with groupthink. So what is groupthink?
Okay, groupthink is a general term for a phenomena, not just of modern times, in which individuals feel that to be part of a group, they must accept to be told what to think. So groupthink is like that's your condition or membership in the group. So it's not like the clubs of old. You know, you had a men's smoker club. Everyone had a different opinion about everything, and they sat in a different plush chair and smoked different cigars. Everyone did everything different. But in a groupthink organization, you can't have a different opinion about anything. You must agree that everything is done in the same way. You can't show up one day dressed different. You can't use different adjectives. You can't talk about different topics. You can't insist that other things are important. And you can't disagree with anyone on any important issue. So it's a modern phenomenon of a form of social grouping that is highly ideologically based, but it's also a phenomenon we find in certain groups in ancient times. For example, Islam is a groupthink, super cult, you might say.
Yeah. You still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay. Making sure. So who termed groupthink and how has it been dangerous?
I can't say right off the top where the concept came out. Maybe you know that better than myself. But it's dangerous because God gave us free will. And we can't exercise free will because free will is actually a short version of the actual term. The actual term is the free judgment of the will, okay? And God gave us free will, the free judgment of the will, so that we choose. And to do that, we must use our intellect to see what is good and what is not good. So if you are asked to practice groupthink, it's the equivalent of asking you to shut your eyes and stop thinking. And if you stop thinking, you no longer also have free will or choice. So it's called groupthink, but it's actually a form of ideologic slavery, where there is severely punished any deviation of thought. Okay, any deviation of the use of reason and to make decisions. So it's very dangerous because it completely annihilates human free will, depending in principle, but depending on the extent to which it's used. So whether it controls all parts of reality or only regards politics or religion or some particular subject, like the founder of some group or cult. So, but maybe you know more about where the term originated.
Yeah, it first was termed by William H. White Jr., derived from the term from George Orwell's 1984, and popularized it in the 1952 in Fortune magazine, quoting, "Groupthink being a coinage, and admittedly a loaded one, a working definition is in order. We're not talking about a mere instinctive conformity. It is, after all, a perennial failing of mankind. What we are talking about is a rationalized conformity, an open, ar- articulate philosophy, which holds that group values are not only expedient, but right and good as well." And it also, another person, Irving Janis, pioneered the initial research on groupthink theory. He does not cite White, but coined the term by analogy with doublethink and similar terms that were part of the newspeak vocabulary in the novel 1984 by George Orwell. He initially defined groupthink as follows: "I use the term groupthink as a quick and easy way to refer to a mode of thinking that persons engage in when concurrent seeking becomes so dominant and a cohesive in-group that it tends to override realistic appraisal of alternative alternative courses of action. Groupthink is a term of the same order as the words in the newspeak vocabulary George Orwell used in his dismaying world of 1984. In that context, groupthink takes on an invidious connotation. Exactly such a connotation is intended, since the term refers to a deterioration in mental efficiency, reality, testing, and moral judgment as a result of group pressure. He went on to write, "The main principle of groupthink which I offer in the spirit of Parkinson's law is this: the more immobility in the spirit de corps there is among the members of the policy-making in-group, the greater the danger that independent critical thinking will be replaced by groupthink, which is likely to result in an irrational and dehumanization actions directed against out-groups."
Mm-hmm. Esprit de corps. So to say it in other words is, in any organization where the people running it want to remain in power no matter what and no longer care whether they're running it efficiently for the sake of the organization, they're apt to fall into the habit of and stop critically thinking, stop considering new problems, start opening up because they get burnout. They've been there a long time. They think they've seen everything. They become insensible to what's really going on and the changes. Because in social organizations, there's almost constant, everything's in change. And so they can't break out of their approach, and they start demanding that everyone look at it that way. And if they have the power to determine who's a member and who's not a member of the group, they start kicking out people that deviate in thought. Now, this is a really common phenomena you see in all the new movements, religious orders, fraternities, and societies founded since the Second Vatican Council. They are almost all colored with extreme groupthink, extreme ideologic control. And that is because Vatican II is so full of errors that if you allow free thought, people eventually start talking about the errors and say this council should be opposed. And yet all these groups founded after the council either took a position where you couldn't question the council because they wanted approval from the revolutionaries who were pushing the council through, or you couldn't admit there was maybe something good in the council because the founders of the organization said that the council was evil and has to be totally opposed. Even if they couldn't say why it's evil, you know. So, for example, some of the best critiques of what's wrong with the Second Vatican Council do not come from Society St. Pius X. St. Pius X's criticism of the council is actually rather weak and not very substantial. But you can't, if you're in the society, deviate from that. You'll be attacked because, oh, you're disagreeing with the view of the council. Okay. So, groupthink is very common in modern times because what's happened since the revolution is a complete dehumanization of humanity. See, the French Revolution was inhumane, vicious, barbarous, chaotic, anarchical, okay? And to maintain that going, to constantly attack concepts that are fundamental to human society, like fatherhood, the family, Christianity, hierarchical organization, God, order, the natural order, the moral law, the natural law. You have to constantly be anarchical and attack truth and freedom. And so there's a consequent necessity, if you maintain the French Revolution, that you push groupthink in one form or the other. And any deviation has to be severely punished or the revolution will fall apart. Okay, so it's the French Revolution leads to groupthink, just like Islam is groupthink. Whatever you might say about Muhammad, he was an expert in psychological manipulation. He knew that to remain in power and for remain in control, he had to claim absolute divine authority for every whim he did and constantly invent a new revelation to justify it, and that if anyone agreed, he had to put them to death. So by the constant threat of death, torture, dismemberment, and physical and psychological violence, persecutions, and other forms of dehumanizing others, he established control so completely over the Arab tribes and taught this method of abuse down through the ages, so that in Islam, they're taught to be abusive. If you have the most friendly Islamic friend, you say the wrong thing, don't be surprised it becomes very violent. You may put a knife in your back. I'm not saying they're psychopathic, but the religion teaches them to maintain the ideologic control, the groupthink, at all costs. No, there's no moral law whatsoever that would prevent them from using violence to maintain it at all costs. That's the most extreme form of groupthink because it claims to be from God. Groupthink doesn't come from God because God is perfectly free. He's the author of humanity. He gave us liberty. He gave us, for the sake of that liberty, a will that is free and intellect to show the will what to choose that is good. Without those two powers, we can't be free, but our will can't be free unless we have a mind that can look at the truth, is willing to look at the truth, and can think critically about what claims are being made by others. Because truth doesn't come out of the human mind. Truth is found in reality and comes into the human mind, okay, by the use of the intellect. And so any groupthink is innately dehumanizing in the most fundamental ontological, metaphysical way, moral way. Groupthink is designed to dehumanize people and to control them. That's why it is so dangerous. It should be classified as a crime against humanity.
I think let's see, Irving Janis was working on that. Seems like he was a pretty good researcher. Let's see here.
Yeah, the power behind groupthink is such that obviously intelligence agencies worldwide would be interested in knowing what it is, how to practice it, and how to control people with it, because it's closely allied to narrative control, propaganda, and the repression of the masses.
Yeah.
And in the Cold War and in the post-Nazi era, evil men admired the control that Hitler had over Germans.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted that control over their people.
Yeah.
Because most politicians are psychopathic megalomaniacs, and they just want to suck up power like vampires suck blood. You know, they never want to let go. They always are passing a law to grab more power, more power, and more power. And we've seen that since the Second World War. We now have Supreme Court that claims authority higher than God, and you must submit to it. And if you don't submit to it, you'll be crushed. Okay, and the president goes around as if the Supreme Court has that authority. You know, he doesn't even, you know, he might lament it, but he doesn't resist it. And those people are all controlled by groupthink. People who accept Roe versus Wade are not human beings, because a human being can still see killing a child in the womb is a heinous crime against humanity, okay? And not to have that reaction that this is a heinous crime means that you've lost your humanity, okay? And that has come from groupthink, either because you think that the Supreme Court has that authority, you must accept whatever the Supreme Court says. Whoever said that? Even the Constitution doesn't say you have to accept whatever the Supreme Court says. Or you're a leftist, and that's part of your agenda, dehumanizing people because you want to exterminate white people or Christians so that you can advance the course of international Marxism.
Yeah.
So
It goes on about him. After the publication of Janice's book, Victims of Groupthink in 1972, and a revised edition with the title Groupthink Psychological Studies of Policy Decisions and Fiascos, 1982. The concept of groupthink was used to explain many other faulty decisions in history. These events included Nazi Germany's decision to invade Soviet Union in 1941, the Watergate scandal, and others. Despite the popularity of the concept of groupthink, fewer than 2 dozen studies have addressed the phenomenon itself following the publication of Victims of Groupthink between the years of 72 and 1998. This is surprising considering how many fields of interest it spans, which include political science, communications, organizational studies, social psychology, management, strategy, counseling, marketing. One can most likely explain this lack of follow-up in the group research is difficult to conduct. Groupthink has many independent and dependent variables, and it is unclear how to translate groupthink's theoretical concepts into observable and quantitative constructs. And
okay, to use an example, CNN was founded by Ted Turner and was one of the spin-offs from his network, and it was a very successful news organization. It was right there on the front lines in the Iraqi wars. And however, leftist groupthink took over the organization once he sold it, and they became so blinded to their agenda that now they don't even report the news. They'll report absolute lies about what's going on, make up video footage that never existed, showing people doing what they didn't do, because they've become so obsessed with groupthink that that is the reality. And if anyone on CNN so much as at a cocktail party say something which is against the groupthink, he'll be fired immediately and you'll never see him again. And Fox News follows strong groupthink too. You have people on there that say the most honest things and they get fired right away. And turns out what they said was true. Political parties that practice this level of groupthink are very dangerous. The Democratic Party is certainly one of them. And it's a very common phenomena. They say it's hard to translate, but it's observable in human behavior at the level where the expression of the will of the people with power regards what you're allowed to say or do and what you're required to think. So you see this phenomenon has become much more common even in businesses. You have businesses that have meetings on a regular basis on how to think about the company, okay? How to think about the product. They want to micromanage and control every aspect of production, sales, services, that the worker is basically being programmed about the product. If you go into McDonald's and ask them what they don't like about the McBurger, whatever, they can't tell you their opinion. They would be fired. They have to tell you what they're told to tell you, okay? Now, that's just not normal. That's just not human. And it's a violation of workers' rights.
Yep.
Because if a worker thinks the food's not being prepared well, he has an obligation to tell the customer, you know. Our recent shipment of hamburgers isn't really top quality, so I wouldn't recommend getting one of those. Get some fried chicken, you know. Yeah. He should have the freedom to say that, even if it hurts their bottom line, because that's honesty, that's truth, and that's what
Mm-hmm.
should prevail in a relationship between a business and a customer. So groupthink has become almost institutionalized because we moved into an age of ideology, a dishuman age. All the propaganda is we are now freer than people have ever been free. We are now more advanced than people have ever been advanced, and things are always getting better, always getting better. That's the
Uh-huh.
narrative. The reality is actually quite different. We're entering an age of barbarity, tyranny, dictatorship, uh, because of these psychopaths. They want everyone to practice the groupthink. The ultimate groupthink, it was the pandemic, okay? The elites of the world decided they were going to declare something a pandemic that wasn't a pandemic. And they knew it wasn't a pandemic. They knew this thing wasn't deadly. They knew it because it came out of the laboratories that they ran, and they knew it was not deadly. They knew it was infectious, but it wasn't deadly. But they saw it as an opportunity to dictate reality. This is how psychopathic these people are. They want to tell you. They don't want only to tell you what reality is. They want you to accept as reality what they say it is, not what it is. That level of megalomania goes beyond even Adolf Hitler. It's right up there with Muhammad. Okay, these people are so out of touch with reality, and they're so crazy. And it's not just one or two. It's not just Bill Gates. It's the entire political class around the whole world that went along with this spiel. Okay, they got off on this stuff. And this is a drug for them to be able to tell you what reality is. Do you think they believe it? I'm sure none of Bill Gates' children are getting the vaccine and none wear a mask. They're laughing their faces off at us, seeing these people go around with masks, some of which are so paranoid. I saw someone the other day going around with a mask who wasn't anywhere near him, and he's wearing gloves on top of it on a hot day because he's afraid of getting a disease from someone. But there's no disease out there that can kill you. I mean, snap out of reality. However, the society has been so engineered in the last 50 years that people want groupthink. There are people that believe in the pandemic. It's become their religion. It's more important than their religion, whether they're Muslim or Christian or Buddhist or Hindu. It is the reality now. If you challenge them, if you go down the street and someone is wearing a mask and you say, it's completely useless. There's no pandemic. It's fake. Take your mask off and live your life. They'll turn on you. They're like a
Uh-huh.
vicious guard dog, and they might even call the police on you
Yep.
because they're totally out of touch with reality. They have preferred the alternate reality that comes down from groupthink.
Yeah.
And these people are very dangerous. They've been triggered. They're now completely controlled. They've become ideologic robots. And all the government has to say now is people who don't wear the mask are a threat. You who believe in the pandemic, you take a gun and kill all your neighbors who aren't wearing a mask. These people will do it because they are totally controlled. They
Mm-hmm.
have accepted another reality. They are more dangerous than the politician in your nation's capital because they live on your street. Okay. And if they're wearing a mask, they're capable of anything because they're out of touch with reality. They're suffering from extreme psychosis, okay, which is
Yep.
divorced from reality. And they believe that is reality. And God forbid, if they're the kind of person that wants to impose their will on you, watch out for people like that. It's not the police going to come down the street one day and shoot you. It's those people
Yeah.
because they already don't live in the real world. They don't accept the objective standards of truth and morals, rights and liberty. That's how bad groupthink is today. And
Yeah.
it's not just found among atheists. It's found among people who go to the Latin Mass. It's like 80% of the bishops in the United States, more than 80%, have all been taken over groupthink, and they're pushing it hard. They don't have, these people have, let's stay with face now. People who accept groupthink are no longer Christians, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Christianity requires you to live in reality, worship the God of reality, and open your eyes to the truth. The kind of person who's going to put a mask over his face has completely rejected any obligation to seek the truth, objective, real world truth. And they're professing their total acceptance of an antichrist religion where your political leader tells you all truth and you accept it. So their devotion to their political leaders is what is completely canceled out their loyalty to Jesus Christ. They don't believe Christ is God anymore. They don't believe that Christ can heal them of all disease and that he rose from the dead, because they go to church on Sunday and they won't sing and they wear a mask over their face and receive communion in the hands, and
Yeah.
even wear gloves and sit 6 feet from one another on certain spots in the pews. These people aren't Christian. That is a diabolic, that is the religion of the Antichrist. That is
Mhm.
not the religion of Jesus Christ. That is the religion of the Antichrist. I am not exaggerating.
Yeah.
Christ came to teach us truth. The Antichrist comes to teach us lies and to live in lies and to insist that lies are the truth and lies have a right, and that those who refuse lies must be arrested, put in prison, or put to death. That is the religion of the Antichrist. We are seeing it now.
Yeah. That brings me to a good update about what's going on in Kansas. As I mentioned a week ago, how the governor wanted to announce her new emergency executive order, except our emergency powers ran out before all this started. She signed an executive order saying a mandatory mask for the state of Kansas. Well, when she announced it early, I don't think she was expecting any type of pushback, because they thought the Kansans would obey. Well, we we Kansans who have social media and have internet access, once we learned about it, we pushed back hard, and they said some not so very clean words, but like it's like, okay, it's not mandatory. If you want to wear it, wear it. Don't.
She
But
backed down. Good for the Kansans.
but
You know,
then
yeah.
but then here comes the city of Wichita, Democrat-led folks. Mandatory masks or $100 fine.
You know, when a leader who has no authority whatsoever for this makes a medical procedure mandatory, the chief of police should go right to their office and say, "You are under arrest because you're insane, and we're taking you away to a mental institution because you are out of touch with reality." You don't even have that authority. You are usurping the authority of a dictator in a free country. Therefore, you are a threat to the people, and I'm going to arrest you. That's what should be going on. The state police should arrest the governor, and the local police should arrest the mayor, because that's reality. If we don't defend reality, the problem is today is we've never had this level of madness in the world. Okay, people who have this level of madness for centuries were in manicomiums. They were in mental hospitals, asylums. But now these people are politicians, and we don't have the reflex reaction that we should have to someone that denies reality. If a mayor of the town says, "I order everyone to believe the moon is made of cheese," he needs to be arrested, just as if he said, "I order everyone in town to wear a mask." Okay? Masks are not even made to be worn by everyone. The only reason a medical mask is worn is when a patient who's highly infectious is constantly being cared by medical professionals, and it's to keep the medical professionals who are in intimate, close contact with the person from spreading disease. Or it's worn in a surgery where if the slightest little saliva would come out of the mouth while someone was speaking and fall in the wound, it could cause an infection. These conditions don't prevail on the sidewalk in front of Walmart, okay? And if you think they do, you're so totally ignorant of medical facts and science that you are incompetent to serve as a head of a police department or mayor of a city or governor of state, because you're totally incompetent. You're as if we pulled someone out of the Middle Ages who believed that mice pop out of a rotting material by, instantly, ex post facto, like that, out of magic. If you actually believe that and started passing ordinances, we must clean up all the garbage in the city because Mice are created out of thin air in the presence of garbage. If a mayor declared that, he should be taken away to a mental asylum. Okay. Now, same thing for masks. So don't buckle down to these people because they are extremely abusive people. Okay.
Yeah.
This is one of the hard things about groupthink is that it's promoted by people who are manipulative. Okay. So the average American citizen, the average human being, has grown up in a family that's not manipulative. Your father and mother taught you right and wrong and to love the truth and hate error and love good and refuse evil and go around with good people and stay away from bad people. And you were free to read the books you wanted to read, and you read good books, and you went to church on Sundays, and you led a good, honest life, and you associated with good people. But pretty much, you were free to do whatever you wanted, whether you wanted to play soccer or you wanted to play football or baseball. You had the freedom. But in a manipulative household, one of the parents or both of them, they want complete and absolute control over a person, and everything they do and say is to break that person down and control them. So if as soon as the person wakes up in the morning, if that person wants to get out of the house and the manipulative person doesn't want it, they'll say, "Oh, you can't go out of the house because there's some criminals in the street. I saw them." They'll just start inventing things out of thin air. It's all designed for control. We are in an exact analogous situation. These politicians are so psychopathic that they're making up lies on a worldwide scale to justify their control of you. Okay?
Yeah.
Even though they have no authority whatsoever. I mean, a sane person should say, well, President Trump, maybe there is a pandemic, but you don't have authority to shut down the nation. It's not in the Constitution, okay? It's not there. So you cannot command me to shut down my business or not go to my work. Same to you, Mr. or Mrs. Governor. Same to you, Mr. or Mrs. Mayor. And same to you, Mr. or Mrs. Chief of the Police, okay? And if you think otherwise, you are psychotic and you know to go to a mental hospital.
Yeah.
But since we've never confronted this level of madness, this level of absolute immorality, we don't have any institutions to defend us from it. We don't have any independent citizen-based organizations that would just go in and arrest these people and drag them off to a mental institution because that's where they need to go.
Yeah. And it was passed into city law by the city council people. City council, 6-3.
That's a city that's going to destroy their economy because people are going to say, I'm not going to go to Wichita. I'm going to go to a different city to go shopping because they're nuts down there in Wichita.
Yeah. And I even put it on Twitter. I'm done. If it's still in law or order or whatever in December when I go back for doctor, I'm not going.
Go to find a doctor in another city.
Yeah.
Your doctor might have offices in more than one place, so he might have a practice outside the Wichita. Just go there. No, go to Garden City, go to a different town. It's just crazy. You can't condone or support this level of madness. People wonder how it was it that Hitler came to power in Germany and killed 20 million Germans and 20 million non-Germans, and people let him do it. It was groupthink, okay? Groupthink is when a whole nation becomes mad because they decide to obey someone who's mad, okay? And that decision to obey and to think like him, that's what's groupthink. So groupthink lowers you to the level of inhumanity of the person who's promoting it, okay? And no Christian, no faithful Christian has ever promoted groupthink. People who are promoting groupthink who claim to be Christians, they're fakes, they're frauds, okay? I saw a lot of groupthink. I have very strong opinions on groupthink because I was in a religious order that practiced groupthink. It was completely control of everything you said, thought, and did. And if you said anything else, you were crazy. I remember I had a superior who was so loony, he wanted to introduce to the Franciscan habit a detachable collar on our tunic. So under this, I wear a tunic, okay? And in the Franciscan order, you can only have two pieces of habit, the tunic and the capuche that covers it. No, he wanted a detachable collar underneath, because he said people sweated in the summertime, and if you detach the cardinal, you could launder it, and it would keep the rest of your clothing from getting dirty. I said, well, that's a fine idea, Father Guardian, but it's against the rule. He looked at me, and then all his friars who were group thinkers like him looked at me and said, what did you say? I said, it's against the rule. What do you mean it's against the rule? I said, the rule has two pieces of cloth, the capuche and the habit. There's nothing about a detachable collar. Oh, no, but the rule says you must obey your superior in everything. I said, no, the actual rule doesn't say that. It says we should obey our superiors according to the rule. They looked at me like, oh, that's just not approved. So then I was assigned to a part of the monastery by myself for a month where no one would even talk to me, and I was forbidden to talk to anyone because they absolutely feared I would say those words to other people and break down their thought control. Well, this nutcase of guardian, after I decided I was going to be a hermit and leave that crazy order, what happened to him? He left the order. He left the Catholic priesthood. Today he's an Anglican priest that marries men in gay weddings. Do I need to say any more?
No. Let's leave it right there and pick it up after our station announcements. We found out today that we can place a code for any website that you can become a internet radio tower for Ordo Militaris Radio TV. If you want to know how to do this, please come to our website. You will see a new post that is called, let's see. I invite you to advertise OMC Radio TV on your website or blog. You go to ordo-militaris.net. It is the first new posting on the homepage. You click that and you read it, and it tells you what code and where to put it. It is a HTML code.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's a script, so it will work on blogspot blogs, and if you have a business plan on WordPress, you can put it on a WordPress blog, so it doesn't go in all things. And any other website will take it.
Yep. So please become our radio towers.
Yeah, it's kind of, I call it like analogous to radio towers. You just put that little script anywhere in your blog, and it doesn't have to be visible. You can put it down the footnote. What will happen is, and when people look at your website, they're going to see a little player at the bottom or in that part of your website. But they don't even have to see it. As soon as they arrive on your page, they will hear Ordo Militaris Radio playing 24 hours a day. And it will keep people longer on your blog or web page, because if they leave it, they won't listen to hear the radio anymore. Okay, and it doesn't take, it's only a few bits of data, that code. The actual playing of our radio signal will not slow down your website. It does not take any throughput through your site, because it's transmitted directly from our radio company server to your client who's looking at your site. So it doesn't slow down anything, and it adds a new reality to your website of a radio play. And if they don't want to listen to radio, they can do it on the player and turn down the volume, or you even turn the program off.
Yeah.
So, but this is a new internet kind of media, and if we can get a good number of bloggers around the world to put that small code on their blog or website, then Ordo Militaris Radio could reach hundreds of thousands of millions of people every day. And then we'll be able to start defending Christians, because that's what our organization's organized to do, and that's why we do all these programs, to form Catholics and to help them realize that defending Christians is the most important thing. And it doesn't cost you anything to put that code. We won't charge you anything for it.
No.
And it's an excellent apostolate for those who wish to support an order. And even if your blog only has 10 people a week, that's 10 people that will hear already that would never hear it. Even if your blog has 10,000 a day, it's not going to slow it down. So I encourage you to do that. But as I say, on most WordPress blogs, you can't put it because WordPress won't allow scripts. You'd have to have a business class blog and pay them like $300 a year. So we don't ask you to do that for that. But if you're on Blogspot or you're on different other blogging sites that take script, or you run your own website and do your own code, you can put it on there. So it's an excellent way to help the order promote its cause, and to give your readers and then there'll be listeners a way of really getting some good Catholic formation without any effort. Because all they have to do then, once you have that script on your blog or website, is call up the link to your blog and like on their cell phone, and leave their cell phone all day. They'd have like listening to the radio, okay? That will actually encourage a lot of people to come back to your blog, because your blog will be a plug to the radio. Only if they go to your blog or some other blog with that code will they hear the radio station. So it's an excellent thing, and it will be, that's why I call it's like radio towers. So you know that one radio tower reaches only so many people. But if you have hundreds around the country, the world, then you have a lot more audience. And it doesn't cost us any more money for you to put that on your blog. It doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't slow your server down, but gives a whole new reality to blogs who only are putting out printed silent information. This allows you to put out audio. And if you have a website that gets lots of visitors, and you would be interested in putting that on your site and charging us a monthly fee, then you contact AJ, we can talk about it.
Yep. Now, if you want to go into the show for talking about groupthink, what you see about it on Twitter, Facebook, wherever, and what you experience with it, please call in. Please dial +1 785 672 9560. That is the Skype studio number for Order Test Radio TV. And call in, comment, ask a question about groupthink, what's your experience with it. Because if you've been on Twitter, you've been in the Twitter wars against these group thinkers. And it is nasty, folks.
AJ, can you repeat that phone number more slowly for those who want to write it down?
Yeah. +1 785 672 9560.
Okay. And that's the same call-in number for all the shows, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, and when you call in, you won't just be speaking to AJ, you'll be speaking to everyone listening on the radio.
Yep.
So he has the equipment to transmit it as he speaks to you. So understand that anything you say will be broadcast.
Yeah, keep it clean, folks. We got U.S. FCC rules and whatever else is FC. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we have Christian ethics too, so. So.
All right. Back to the groupthink. I'm getting more and more thinking about this groupthink and this MAGA stuff, and I was like, and we had one Catholic leave a not so nice reply regarding founding a Christian party because he thought we wanted Trump to lose.
Yeah, let's not mention his name, but okay, so this is part of a result of narrative control. So narrative control, you might know, is when media outlets constantly put out one version of the facts or the story line they want you to accept as reality, hiding the full truth or all the truth. And one aspect of narrative control is that things must be the way they're said. So the political parties in the United States have become very groupthink, especially when we get around election. So many social media accounts are being run by political action committees, And if you say anything against their candidate or how they could perceive it, they just lash out. They teach people to get triggered. And, you know, I'll say openly, I hope Trump wins. But I hope Trump wins only because Biden would be worse. But in a more perfect world, I wouldn't vote for either of them. I would prefer someone like, you know, Godfrey of Bouillon, or, or a Polish king of ages past, because we don't have even choices designed to solve the problems. We have a choice for total destruction of the country, and we have a choice for a slowdown of the destruction of the country. But we don't have a choice against the destruction of the country, and we don't have a choice to rebuild the country. MAGA has shown itself for what it is. It's not to make America great again. It's just to slow down the destruction of the country. And it has surrendered completely to all the principles of the socialist destruction. And now they're just wetting their lips. They would have never tried the Black Lives Matter Antifa stunt if it didn't think they could get away with it. They didn't think they had an ally. And so I'm not saying not to vote for Trump, but he's not going to save you even if you do vote for him. Okay. What you need to do is organize your own defense. And we've been telling people that for 4 years and no one's taking a list. And I have the awful fear that America is going to go down to a Soviet absolute dictatorship, because people just won't wake up and smell the coffee, okay, and stop believing this groupthink that someone is going to save you who doesn't even care about saving you and has never done a blessed thing to save you. Okay. Instead of believing in your Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, who did everything to save you and sacrificed everything for save you and proved that he's God, who's done everything for you. But no, you want to believe someone who's never done anything for you, and you don't want to believe in one who's done everything for you. And if America keeps on that road, it will be destroyed, because it is not stretching its hands out to the one and only Savior, Jesus Christ. And he's not just a Savior in religious matters, he's also Savior in political matters, okay? So don't believe these false clergy who say, don't have anything to do in politics, just pray on Sunday. That is a lie. That is a disgrace to Jesus Christ, and that is an insult of Christ, who is King of Kings and Lord of Lords. A Christian should serve him not only in the pews, but also on the streets, in the job, in the workplace, and when he votes. And that's why we said in our previous program, America won't be saved without a Christian party. And the more we delay it, the more we allow these people who get triggered to go, oh, but you want Trump to lose. Don't you dare form such a party. You'll make the Republicans lose. They never say you'll make the Democrats lose. Why is that? Because they want the Democrats to win. They don't want the cause of Christ to win. They might claim they're Catholics, but they are completely now mind controlled to act just like Freemasons. Okay. Because the Freemason doesn't want you to oppose the global elites. He wants to always trigger you to think, oh, you're guilty for opposing the Masonic agenda. Okay. And if someone is 50% in with the Masonic agenda, they'll still push him because they still get half their agenda. If a person is 1% in favor of the Masonic agenda, he's a Freemason. I don't care if you have the most faithful Catholic you could find. If he's against monarchy, he is not a Catholic, okay? Because monarchy is of God and is approved in divine revelation. You can't find anything in the Bible in favor of democracy. It's not going to find it. It's not a form of government God has ever approved, okay? Or a representational government, okay? These things are ideas of the Freemasons. It's true we don't have nobility anymore. My point is, you have to let your faith inform your entire mind. You can't say, well, in matters of politics, I'm going to be a Freemason.
What? That's just stupid. Yeah. Did we touch on this before? Is groupthink part of the CIA MK Ultra program?
Definitely, definitely, because groupthink was a highly practiced art in Nazi Germany, and when the CIA was formed, half of its agents, or maybe even most of its agents, were not former Nazi spies that were recruited deliberately by Dulles, because he was a Freemason, and he knew if he could get recruit the Nazi spy corps into the CIA, he could destroy America. And that's been the objective of the Freemasons from the beginning, to destroy the Christian nation of America, because they want to rob the power of America for the Masonic order. And they've pretty much succeeded. That's why when America wins the war, she gives back all her lands, because the Masons don't want America to take land away from the Freemasons. And they always put Freemasons back in power. Externally, our nation has fought many wars, shed the blood of Christian Americans, but always given power to the Freemasons. And so the CIA is dead in on that. And you can see it, because I can tell you, as president of Order Militaris Inc., which has been around for 4 years, I think about 30 or 40 government agents have called us up, tried to string us along, tried to push us to commit crimes, harassed us in all kinds of numerous ways, from shutting down bank accounts to social media accounts, and even to gloat over it. But they've let Black Lives Matter and Antifa organize, fight, and conquer territory, kill people, burn down huge sections of the country. Aren't they infiltrating these organizations to prevent them from doing it? Why are they afraid of a Catholic organization that's talked about law, order, and morality and defending Christians? So, you know, wake up and smell the coffee. These deep state organizations are not your friends. They're your enemies. They want to break you and your family down. They want to victimize you and your children. They want to exploit you. With groupthink, they want to totally control you and turn you into a mindless robot of their revolution.
Groupthink seems to be connected to political correctness. What is political correctness?
So political correctness was first coined in the 70s by the left to talk about how you should accept certain political things, because that's the Marxists all about. Marxism is a form of groupthink, and it's all about control of people by controlling ideas. Okay, so what they claim are political principles, they hold to be politically correct. Then in the 80s, the conservatives in America used it as a derogatory term and started faulting the left for trying to impose norms of political correctness on discourse. So political correctness is what you're allowed or you should be saying about a particular topic. And that rule is established always by the left. And many people in the right observe it. I mean, after Reagan, from Reagan all the way until Trump, if any Republican really bucked political correctness, the other Republicans would turn on him and he'd have all knives in the back. Because after Reagan, the Republican Party pretty much has just agreed to be one lockstep with the Democratic Party, and to just pretend to be opposition, but they're no longer real opposition, they're just pretense. So, and Trump seemed to break that mold, but I think as his 4 years come to an end, it's pretty much clear that he is in the same mold. He's just fooled us all, okay? He's destroyed the nation's economy at the request of people of the left, and has no remorse over it whatsoever. No, he won't even claim responsibility, because if he did, he'd lose in the election. So, but he has destroyed his entire reputation as a president, and now he's going to try to save it and get reelected. But will he change after that? No, because he always was a Democrat. Why are these people always, you know, the Republicans we've had have always been Democrats. Reagan was a Democrat. Trump was a Democrat. The Bushes, I don't know if they say they were Democrats, but they've always been on the left. So we haven't even had a real Republican. And you try to get one, oh, they'll all come out with knives. Look how many knives came out against Trump. And he was only more for the people than the rest of the Republican Party. So it wasn't Trump did not find the Republican Party to the right of him. He found the Republican Party to the left of him, because they were already, they were like kissing the feet of Obama. They did nothing against the dictatorship of Obama, who indebted this country to the tune of $7 trillion. That money all went to his friends around the world. None of it went to help America. I mean, he promised to help all these black people who lost their house. He didn't do a blessed thing for black people. not a blessing. He didn't even give them the cell phones he promised them. And completely, absolutely disgusting dishonesty. And the Republicans were just kissing his feet. They never did anything to oppose him. Okay, they never even allowed anyone to investigate his birth certificate and why was he claiming to be born in Kenya and then born in America, and why was the certificate he published falsified? No, they wouldn't even allow that. Fox wouldn't even allow that. They'd fire people who'd even bring it up. So Trump didn't find the Republican Party to the right of him. He found them to the left of them. And even Trump, though, listened to the left and destroyed the entire national economy for an influenza that doesn't exist. He's even allowed the health authorities in the United States to falsify death rates for COVID-19 if they just think the person might have had COVID-19. No president who was just sane would allow that. He's laughing in your face. So I'm not saying you don't vote for him, because he's far less worse than Biden, but he's not much less worse. The difference is he'll at least say that conservative things are conservative, but he's not saying them to be conservative. I mean, he goes and prays at the shrine of John Paul II, but is he becoming Catholic? I think he did it just to get the Catholic vote. So I know I'm going to get Catholics and a lot of Republicans really angry. What I'm saying is, but you got to snap out of the false hope and return to Jesus Christ and found a real Christian party. And if you don't believe that Jesus Christ will give victory to a true Christian party, you need to admit to everyone that you're not a Christian, you're not a believer, and stop faking it, okay? Sick and tired of these people faking it, okay? And I could name all the names because they're all fakes. They only go on social media, say, give me money, give me money. They build themselves a big $1 million house and they don't say anything, okay? And they won't ever say the real things, that you should oppose the French Revolution, you should really form a Christian party. They will never say you need to form a Christian party, because they've all accepted Masonic ideals in politics. They're not Christians in politics, and therefore they're not Christians, because you have to be a Christian in everything or you're not a Christian, okay? And so political correctness, it's completely ridiculous. Politics does not dictate what is true or false, right or wrong. Only God has authority to say what is right and what is wrong. And anyone else who claims to have that authority is a Looney Tune, and you shouldn't listen to them.
You listen to Order Militaris Radio TV live on our website at ordo-militaris.net. That is ordo-militaris.net. Please click any other topic, posts, or topics. Scroll down to the bottom. You'll see make free will monthly donation. Scroll down a little bit further. You'll see a blue-green button. Click that and follow the steps. Now we want to talk to you about investing with Ordo Militaris Catholicus. It's so important. After yesterday's show, we told you all the things that are going on that have happened since 2019 and even a little bit into 2020. How the Christians are just being slaughtered. How their humanitarian aid rights are not being taken care of. And no one is actually doing anything to help them or protect them.
Yes, when we talk about in matters of security and defense. So I think people need to, we've seen a lot of absolute chaos, terror, and mayhem in the United States in the last few weeks from Black Lives Matter and Antifa. And we have seen nearly all major corporations in the country come out in favor of these terrorists. We've seen the president did precious little about it other than talk about it, and we see most governors and mayors didn't do much about it. Now a bit of sanity is coming back. But you need to realize now who your enemies are. They are the big corporations in America. They are the big political parties. They let this thing go and they saw there was practically no kickback. They're going to let it go again, okay? So maybe the prudent thing is to look at your investments, where you have your money, and pull it out of every company that came out and said that Black Lives Matter was doing the right thing or Antifa was doing the right thing, and invest it in companies that are now going to help people defend themselves, because we no longer have a government, we no longer have political parties, and we no longer even have major sectors of the economy that are our friends. They want us exterminated. They want us genocide. They want us locked up. They want us murdered, and they want our businesses and homes burnt down. They even want to shut down our churches and burn them to the ground. And no one's going to come and help defend it, because the chief of police is a member of the party that says, "Oh, we can't do anything." So is the mayor. So in large swaths of America, that's the case. So what could be the best place you could put your money after taking out of all these companies that are in favor of these rioters? I humbly submit, as president of Order Militaris Inc., that our corporation should be one that you can consider. Why? Because we're dedicated to organizing the defense of Christians. With the investments that we're seeking to raise, we will build training camps, found organizations around the country and around the world that will teach Christians to defend themselves with the force of arms, and to know how to do so in small and large groups, so that when all hell breaks loose, people will be able to defend themselves. Okay? And they'll be able to say to good mayors and good governors and good chiefs of police, here, we have 100 men, 10 of our guys went to the training school with Order Militaris, here's their certificate. We know how to, we've come home and we've organized each of us 20 men. And so now we have this force that can defend our county and defend the honest people of our county. And we're all volunteers. You don't even have to pay us to do it, but we're going to do it because we love America. Okay, and that's true of any other nation too. But that can't happen unless there's an organization that's going to train these people. And no one will even talk about it. Ours is the only corporation dedicated to doing it and willing to talk about it. And we already have a network of up to 300 military men to train civilians in this sort of thing. Our particular goal was to fight against terrorism around the world. But terrorism has come to America. The heads of these Black Lives Matter and Antifa, they're black terrorists, okay? They are Muslims even, okay? So practitioners of a religion that say kill the unbeliever are the most threatening, okay? These aren't Christian organizations that, go going after against evil people. These are members of Marxist or Islamic organizations which believe that they have the right to kill anyone who disagrees with them, okay? So we're currently seeking a modest 10 million in investment, very modest, okay? With all the people who know about the existence of our order and our corporation, everyone listening on radio, all of you together, if you invested, we could easily begin the projects that we have projected, okay? And a training camp, like a school and university, would charge a modest tuition, so it's not like it's that won't produce a return on investment for our investors. Those who invest in our company will be shielded from the fact that they're stockholders, and our corporation will take the money and found other corporations who take on the risk, and then our stockholders will get a dividend. So that's how we have it arranged, so that you get a return on your dividend. So it's not like in the stock market, your stock goes up and down because people speculate it and play games with the value. Our stock pays a dividend, and it's private issue. So it's not traded on markets where its price can fluctuate, okay? So that's my humble proposal. And I think now more than ever, investing in Order Militaris is the right thing to do. It is a prudent business decision. And it is a very patriotic and Christian thing to do. However, as all things are, and I will tell you the truth, because not only because the Security Exchange Commission requires, but it is truth. I'm a Christian, I'll tell you. It is a risky investment because our corporation has never existed before, okay? This has never been done before, but we have high ethical standards and we intend to do it very professionally in accord with all the laws. So your money isn't going to be burned on, I'm not going to buy a jet and fly around the world in it. It's going to go, our stock issues are precisely dedicated the funds for capital improvements, expenses, and acquisitions. So our members around the world with their monthly pledges give us small capital pledges that help us with our expenses. But once we have these facilities, we can start business activities through the companies we invest in, and we see return on that, and generate an income to pay our operating expenses, which are keep very low because neither AJ nor I take a salary, okay? And we don't currently have any paid employees. So we try to keep expenses to an absolute minimum. And I think we've proven ourselves in our determination because we have basically been persecuted, he and I, for 4 years for doing this. And we've had a couple hundred individuals from around the world that have supported the order. We do all the volunteer work, okay? So this is the time to invest. You know it's the time to pull your investments out of these companies. Where are you going to put your assets? Where are you going to put your monies that you could be dedicated to investing? With Order Militaris Inc., you can invest in the United States. Our Y series is for investing in the United States. And you can start preparing America to defend itself if there's going in the upcoming revolution, because the Marxists will start a revolution and they will attempt to exterminate 1/6 of the population that they do whenever they do any of their revolutions. And we need to prepare now or we will be killed later. Okay, so this is the best investment. You put it in a stock market that's going to crash in a revolution, you'll lose all your assets overnight, and that's how they're going to neutralize you. Because when the revolution breaks out, the stock market is going to plummet down to, you know, nothing, and you will get nothing on your investment. And however, in organizations like ours, if you've invested with us, well, we have the same amount of land, the same buildings. It's going to have even higher value if it's a military training camp in a revolution. Okay, it will be a center, become a center of power. So best investment, I think, you know, as president of Order Militaris, you understand that I'm partial and have a you might say a prejudiced view about it, but think about these things seriously. Think about these things profoundly. Your stockbroker is not going to tell you the truth. The stockbroker is going to tell you to invest in the companies where his brokerage or his friends tell him to put your money. He's going to dissuade you from defending America because the stock brokerages in America are pretty much controlled by people who don't like America and don't believe in America and want your money to support the organizations that support Black Lives Matter and Antifa. So realize that there are a lot of people who don't have the liberty of mind and who practice groupthink and gladly accept groupthink, and they're going to try to enforce that on you and your investment decisions. And I think you need to think critically. You need to think about the whole big picture. And I think you need to invest in organizations like us. And I'm not saying we're the only one out there. It's the only one I know of. But if you find others, invest in them too, because America needs to prepare and the investors need to lead the way.
Yeah. I want to get to this report by Judith Bergman. That's from June 30th, 2020. The Corporate Thought Police. The bullet points. Sweden has been steeped in political correctness for decades. Their failed immigration policies, which have had multiple negative consequences, as reported by Gatestone Institute, have long been taboo. The idea that free speech is not fundamental liberty, that must be defended at all costs, runs deep in Sweden. Radio personality and NBA announcer Grant Napier was fired from his radio show at KHTK Radio and resigned as the Sacramento Kings play-by-play TV announcer after retweeting on June 1st, "All lives matter, every single one," in reference to protests by the Black Lives Matter movement. A young Democrat data scientist, David Shore, was fired by research firm which he was working, Civis Analytics, after tweeting about the electoral effectiveness of peaceful protests as opposed to violent protests. Now the report begins. Our corporate thought police have been working overtime, and from the look of it, they are only beginning. Max Soga, a journalist and editor-writer at one of Sweden's largest regional newspapers, Swedenskan, was recently demoted from editorial writer to a non-writing position for tweeting the following: "When you see the less almost sexual excitement over the riots in the United States, over the looting, fires, and violence, it also becomes easier to understand its desires to create similar conditions here with a large segregated underclass of migrants." A tweet way over the line, wrote Jonas Kanja, editor-in-chief at Svedvinskan, after receiving backlash on Twitter. "A way to express yourself that Svedvinskan can never support. I disassociate myself from it." According to Swedish publishing house Bonnier, which owns Svedvinskan, Bonnier defends freedom of expression and diversity of voices and perspectives should be heard in our media. Less than a week later, Soren Akeby, who had an advisory role on a board of Swedish football team OFK, was let go by the board by sharing a Facebook post that directly violates OFK values. The post that Akeby shared contained the following: "Another Swede murdered by a racial stranger. The boy was stabbed when he helped a Swedish girl who was being raped by a Somali. Don't stand by and watch your own people get murdered, raped, and humiliated. Organize and resist this alien invasion. We are at war." I read it
It's
too quick.
outrageous that they would fire these people. It's absolutely outrageous, but this is groupthink. Groupthink maintains itself by absolute vicious retaliation against anyone who's not practicing the groupthink.
Yeah. Here's his apology. I read it too quickly and just shared it. Akeby apologized. "I certainly don't have those thoughts. I have trained foreign players for more or less all my life. For me, this became so surreal. I'm definitely not a racist. I'll take it back. I'll delete the post immediately if it is interpreted this way. I didn't mean to."
It sounds like he's in the Soviet Union making a confession during the Cold War. There's absolutely nothing wrong with the statement he made. I mean, it's common sense that you should advocate self-defense. I mean, but the people involved in groupthink are so vicious. And for example, Facebook knows I'm president of Order Militaris. I recently tried to go on Facebook. Within 12 hours, they blocked me because I had uploaded a patriotic flag, and they said, "Your behavior on Facebook violates our community standards and values." Because they're vicious. They're vicious people. They will not allow anyone to break the rules of groupthink or even oppose it. They certainly don't want me on Facebook unless I talk to everyone that they've controlled mentally through their system to actually start telling people the truth. So yeah, vicious, very vicious people. And any corporation that practices that should lose their license of operation, have their assets seized, because they're an enemy of the people. They're the enemy of truth. I mean, we talk a lot about free speech. You have to understand that the slogan free speech never meant you had the right to speak the truth. The slogan of free speech is a Masonic slogan, which meant you have the right to speak lies. Okay. But now the slogan free speech, they've thrown that away because now you have the duty to speak lies. You can't even, it's not no longer a right, you have the duty. And not going to talk about the right to speak the truth anymore. That doesn't exist. So it was a gradualism to lead people away from the truth, because the Christian principle is you have a right and a duty to speak the truth. And the state has the duty to penalize you if in public you speak lies that deceive people, that lead them to harm themselves or harm other people, okay? Or lead them to accept to be harmed by others, whether it's false advertising in the sale of product, or false medical procedures, or false forms of social organization that lead people to be exploited or damned. That's the Christian principle. But why is that alone forbidden?
Yeah. Yeah. Alexander Bard, a Swedish artist and author, was fired from Swedish TV channel 4 after tweeting, if Black Lives want to matter, then Black Lives get their blank, blank together. Study hard, go to work, make their own money instead of depend on welfare. Stop lying, get out of prison, and become heroes instead of self-appointed victims for the world to laugh at. That matters.
I guess he was fired.
Yes, and reported to the police.
And reported to the police what, for racism?
Inciting hatred.
So the Black Lives Matter people aren't inciting hatred, but he's just telling the truth, you know. See, there's a perfect example. He made a perfect Christian response, and he's guilty of inciting hatred.
Yeah. Sweden has been steeped in political correctness for decades. This country failed immigration policies, which had multiple negative consequences. They reported by Gaystone Institute, and let's see here. Only 5 reports. Thought there were more. Have long been taboo, and those who criticized the policies were, in the words of Ulf Kristersson, leader of the moderate party, reviled and frozen out. In addition, Sweden's hate speech laws have seen people who have criticized Swedish migration policies and their consequences on social media sentenced and fined for inciting hatred. They've gone to jail.
Yeah, because these laws, they're called anti-hate laws, but what they really are hateful laws that promote the hate of truth, the hate of Christians, and the hate of majorities, because they're passed by Marxists who want to break down societies. And Marxism, as we said before, is an ideology that causes you to hate yourself, your people, your race, and your religion. And if you don't, you're considered evil, okay, because it flips the whole order of loyalties. Because it wants to take control. Marxism is used by small non-Christian minorities to take control of Christian nations. It's always, or small minorities to take over whole nations, whether they're Christian or not, like Buddhism. The Cambodia was targeted. It was a Buddhist nation. It was targeted by atheists to take it over. And so, yeah, this is a classic example. That's why you need a Christian party, because you need a Christian party that not only opposes groupthink, political correctness, and these kind of crazy laws, but will reverse the situation and propose the counter politics, which is the reality. People need a choice that's good and honest. And those who say, oh, you shouldn't find a party because you'll cause the Republicans to lose, are people who don't want the average American to have a choice of something that's authentically good. And how can I characterize that spirit other than it's diabolic? It's as if someone's saying, I don't want, you're talking about the councils of hell. In the hell, they have the councils that say, we have to guarantee that whatever they choose is a sin and that no option they have is honest. Okay, we see that in the politics here in Italy. The government's putting up a law that will put you in prison for 6 years if you are guilty of homophobia. The organization opposing them wants you to go and protest this law, but only on the condition that you accept that Italy is embracing of the LGBT agenda. So both choices are evil. They don't want you to have an authentic Christian choice that says no to both of those things. And this is this game played by these evil parties, political parties that are in the service of the devil and the enslavement of humanity, okay? And they have to be fought and opposed by a Christian party that has no fear of saying it is such.
Yeah. It goes on, and we find out who reports these people in Sweden. The idea that freedom of speech is not a fundamental liberty that must be defended at all costs runs deep in Sweden. So deep, in fact, that in 2018, Thomas Adberg, founder of the private organization The Web of Hate Investigator, was nominated for a prestigious prize, the Swedish Hero Award, by one of Sweden's largest national newspapers, Aftonbladet. The nomination came after Adberg's organization reported no fewer than 750 Swedish citizens in 2017 to the authorities for web hate. Abhorg's organization has been generously funded by the government grants, another telltale sign of a scant value placed on free speech.
Well, that's kind of a mild report. Another telltale sign that the government is a dictatorship, an ideologic dictatorship that's institutionalizing groupthink.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh,
they're letting they're letting an independent private organization do all the dirty work.
yeah. Now we get to the
They're
United.
vicious.
Yeah.
Yeah, United States. I assume we're talking about Sweden, but this goes on in the U.S.
Uh huh.
big time.
And here we go. In the United States, people used to stand up for freedom of speech as an inviolable liberty until recently. While free speech has been highly unappreciated on U.S. campuses for years, still is. It still appeared to be a liberty that most Americans appreciate. This appreciation no longer seems to be genuinely the case, at least not in corporate America. The riots in the U.S. since the killing of George Floyd, or more specifically, the debate about the riots, have exposed the stunning extent to which corporate America is willing and able effectively to shut down speech that does not conform to the orthodoxy of the moment.
They shouldn't even call it the orthodoxy. They should call it the Marxodoxy because it's Marxism.
Now, in the past 2 weeks alone, corporate America got rid of the following people for their thought crimes. Radio personality and NBA announcer Grant Napier was fired from his radio show at KHTK Radio and resigned as the Sacramento Kings play-by-play TV announcer after tweeting on June 1st, "All lives matter, every single one," in reference to protests by the Black Lives Matter movement. KHTK's parent company, Bonneville International Corporation, said in a statement that Napier's comments do not reflect the views or values of the company. The timing of this tweet was particularly insensitive.
So the company that owns the radio station just said that they're racist and think whites should die.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the kind of companies you need to take your investments out of.
And then, folks, remember, I think we tried to get ads put in there. Very loud.
Yeah, well, radio stations in America refuse our ads because they're all run by Marxists, and we knew that 3 years ago when we tried to place ads. So it's unbelievable. The only newspaper in the country that would take an ad from us was run by the Hare Krishna. Because Marxism controls journalism so much. Mm-hmm.
Apparently, as one Twitter user told Napier, all lives matter is go-to response from racist individuals when they're asked about BLM.
Oh, so now it's a phrase that's racist if you say it in reference to Black Lives Matter. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What would you be fired if you say White Lives Matter?
Mm-hmm.
Or would you be called a racist if you said Black Lives Matter, but not that much? So basically, they've said anything you say other than yes, Black Lives Matter is great is racist. See, it's just that's thought control. Okay, and what happened to him is complete vicious groupthink tactics. Completely vicious.
Oh.
I hope he sues them.
I don't know. He apologized and he replied, "I'm not as educated on BLM as I thought I was."
Oh my goodness, poor man.
Napier told the Sacramento Bee, "I had no idea when I said all lives matter that it was counter to what BLM was trying to get across."
I guess that's like a half-hearted reply. Yeah, meaning you are racist, and I didn't know that by saying it, I would reveal you for what you are. But you should not make an apology like that. You should come out the next day and say, "Look, I said the truth. All lives matter." And the company that fired me for having said the truth needs to lose their license to broadcast because they are enemies of the American people. That's what he should have said.
Yeah. This one is interesting. It deals with the federal government. The Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago terminated its contract with the University of Chicago economic professor Harold Ulig after a tweet he wrote criticizing Black Lives Matter's desire to defund the U.S. police departments. Too bad, but Black Lives Matter, per its core organization at Black Lives Matter, just torpedoed itself with its full-fledged support of defund the police. We call for national defunding the police. Sure. They knew
So
this was a non-starter.
the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago is against a man saying that the police should be funded. Who do they think is going to defend their banks? I mean, that's insane. Those people on the Federal Reserve Bank Board of Directors need to be fired immediately. And Trump's not doing it, he's part of the revolution. He's not a part of defending Americans. I mean, that's just absolutely insane. God bless that professor for saying the truth.
Yeah.
You know, if these people who fired said things like, you know, these people should be hung and strung up, then I would see they would be fired. That would be a racist statement, okay? That would be calling all the kind of racism of the KKK in the back. But all they're saying is that all lives matter and the police need to be funded to maintain law and order. There's nothing wrong with that. But Marxists have now become total anarchists and all these corporations. So I said before, if corporations and even Federal Reserve banks are firing people for saying law and order should be maintained, that means all these groups are planning a Marxist takeover of America and a genocide of large portions of the population. So if Americans don't start organizing their own defense and investing in companies that are going to defend them, there's no hope for America.
No.
I mean, you know, open your eyes, smell the coffee. This is the reality. We're not making it up. This is what's going on the ground in America. We told you we told you back in 2016 after the events there in Virginia and Charlottesville.
Yeah. The termination of Ulig's reflects our determination that his views are not compatible with the Chicago Fed's values or our commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, said the bank.
He said the word liquidity. So they're giving money to radicals and they don't want anyone to oppose the revolution they're funding. They basically said they're funding a revolution when they said the word liquidity.
How can they fund a revolution if they're part of the federal government?
Is the federal government in favor of America anymore? Is the federal government now controlled by people who want to destroy America? Okay, I'll ask the question. You think about it. You know, we're putting the dots on the paper. You can connect them if you want to see what what kind of image they show.
Of course, he was forced to apologize. Another one. And he also got suspended from his position as editor of the Journal of Political Economy at the University of Chicago at the urging of several professors who said that Ulig was trivializing the Black Lives Matter movement.
This kind of extreme, excessive, vicious reaction for very mild statements of common sense is classic manipulative behavior practiced by people who are pushing groupthink, because they want you to know what happened to this guy so that you get terrified and buckle down and accept their control. We're letting you know what happened to this guy so that you resist and rise up, okay, and stand on your own feet for liberty. And there's only two choices, because if you remain silent, then you're going along with the persecution. If you don't care other people are persecuted, you eventually yourself will be persecuted. And there won't be anyone to defend you because you didn't help any such organizations come into being. This is what's happened to the Christians in the Mideast. They've been persecuted and genocided because no one came to their help. Many organizations said, we need to come to their help, but no one did.
New York Times opinion page editor James Bennett was forced to resign from his position after he read an op-ed piece by Senator Tom Cotton, former Army Ranger, titled "Send in the Troops." The article argued that the U.S. military should be called in as a backup if police fail to get recent riots under control. Bennett's resignation came after more than 800 times staff members signed a letter protesting the publication of Cotton's op-ed, and many claimed it put black New York Times staff in danger. Bennett apologized, of course, for the op-ed, saying that it should not have been published. New York Times said it would make changes to its opinion section.
Even people with common sense still work for the New York Times. I'm amazed. That shows you how obvious it is what's wrong. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Oh boy, the Democrats are eating their own, folks. A young Democrat data scientist, David Shore, was fired by the research firm for which he was working, Civis Analytics, after tweeting about the electoral effectiveness of peaceful protests as opposed to violent protests. He referenced the work of a Princeton assistant professor, Omar Wasow, that violent protests turned voters away from the Democrat Party. Shore experienced a backlash on Twitter, where he was accused of racism, anti-blackness. In addition, at least some employees and clients on Civics Analytics complained that Shore's tweet threatened their safety, according to the New York Magazine. And of course, he apologized. I regret
Threaten their
stating that.
safety.
I regret stating this conversation, and will be much more careful moving forward. Shore apologized to no avail. One Twitter user, Trulu Wesler, tagged Dan Wagner, the CEO of Civis Analytics, telling him to go get your boy. That was all it took. Shore was fired.
See, most people don't realize that Twitter is a Marxist organization. It doesn't exist to help people talk. It exists to monitor what you think. And as soon as you don't think what you're supposed to be, you're fired. So they want you to go on there with your real name, your real position, so that when you say something that they don't approve of, they allow their platform to out you and pull you out of the power structure system. That's the whole purpose of Twitter. That's why Twitter banned us 5 times. And I decided as president, we're not going to go back to Twitter because they're a completely dishonest company. That company should be, everyone that runs it should be arrested. They're completely frauds. They are not a social media platform. They are a narrative control groupthink tool. And these people learned the hard way. You should not be on Twitter. You should not be on Facebook. If you're going to make a comment with your personal voice to your friends, but don't put it on social media, because social media is designed to out you so that you can be persecuted and shut down.
Serbian soccer player Aleksandar Kataj was also fired from the Los Angeles Galaxy soccer team, not because of anything he said or wrote, but because of his wife's social media posts. The Instagram post made by Tia Kataj, according to The Guardian, showed a police SUV attempting to drive through protesters in New York. A caption in Serbian read, "Kill the blanks," while a second showed a picture of an individual carrying a box of Nikes with the caption, "Black Nikes Matter." Now, this incident, folks, was proven justified by even the communist mayor of New York City, saying the police was in the right. They were attempting to break into that SUV to hurt or kill the officers. So they used what they had at their hands, which was their police vehicle. Get out of there and out to safety. And the soccer player was kicked off the team and back to Serbia.
Well, his comments are, let us say, in this case, I'd have to say his comments are not what we would consider acceptable in the United States. Though in the larger picture is, if it's okay for members of BLM or Antifa to burn buildings down and kill people and advocate the genocide of white people, Why is it wrong for a white Serbian to say of the police to kill their enemies? Okay. It is an extreme statement, but on the other side, they're saying that 24/7 in these zones. So why does one person get deported and the other people are not? Okay. So it's to show the game they're playing on control. The Serbs are tough people. They're not willing to take the guff from anyone, so they openly say it. But maybe his command of the English language was such that he didn't feel he was saying something extreme.
Yeah.
But if you were watching a war picture of American soldiers fighting Nazis in the Second World War, and you're in the audience of a theater, would it be wrong to say the Americans kill them all? Okay, would that be wrong?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it would be wrong in the sense of it's a movie and you're cheering for the one side, and evil people. That's the purpose of war. War is killing evil criminal people and freeing territory that they control. It doesn't require that you kill them, but in the Second World War, there was pretty much little that could be done other than if you killed your enemy. Is it gravely immoral to say it? I don't think violence should be put in films personally. I don't think that's a form of entertainment. But is it gravely wrong? Isn't it worse to actually say in public while you're burning a neighborhood down, kill all the whites, kill all the cops, kill all the pigs? Isn't that worse? And are any of these people ever going to lose their job? I bet we'll come out and find that a lot of people in BLM and ANIFA are sitting on executive boards and important positions in political parties of the left, and stores, businesses, and even in positions of public administration. That will come out probably in 6 months when zealous Americans investigate these people and look at their faces and find out who did what, when, and where.
Yeah.
Will they lose their jobs?
No. Now, the vice president, executive editor of the Philadelphia Inquirer, I think one of the oldest newspapers in the country, Stan Wish Wishowski, resigned after being hit with a backlash for running an article with the title "Buildings Matter Too," although the newspaper apologized almost immediately for running the headline. The staff and public demanded still more, according to the newspaper's publisher, Lisa Hughes. We will use this moment to evaluate the organizational structure and processes of the newsroom. Access is what we need and look both internally and externally for a seasoned leader who embodies our values, embraces our shared strategy, understands the diversity of the communities we serve. So
So
they
basically,
say,
because of one headline, they're not going to institute a Soviet state inside the newspaper and fire everyone who doesn't buckle down to groupthink. That's just what they just said.
and why did he put buildings matter? Because Philadelphia at the time was under siege.
Yeah, and just because someone says buildings matter doesn't mean he's saying that black lives don't matter. Matter of fact, when Black Lives Matter says that Black Lives Matter, they don't mean Black Lives Matter. They mean that non-Black lives don't matter. Okay, they mean that buildings don't matter and that nothing matters, and that they have the right to exercise complete anarchical control of a portion of the city, killing and maiming and destroying everything, even businesses of black people and even black people. So what they mean by Black Lives Matter is not that Black Lives Matter. And so why should you criticize a newspaper who actually honestly said that buildings matter, okay? Because you're exposing Black Lives Matter for what it really is and showing that they're a bunch of liars and frauds. And the Marxist hierarchical structure in America, which almost completely controls the United States now, will not tolerate that deviation from groupthink. Because if people can think freely, they'll break free from control. And the Marxists want complete dictatorial control of America, down to the last little dot in every workplace, in every church, and in every town.
The United States normally enshrines the most far-reaching freedom of speech, thanks to the First Amendment of the Constitution. Congress shall make no laws respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peacefully to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Corporate America has circumvented the First Amendment by appointing itself the thought police over employees and associates who do not adhere strictly to the rules of the current orthodoxy. It administers its ruthless justice, cultural, cultural revolution style, to the destruction of employees' livelihoods and careers. The new corporate thought police are merciless. They do not accept apologies, however groveling. Perhaps in the future, corporations will have re-education departments, as in China or the former Soviet Union, for those who still have the courage to open their minds and their mouths.
Well, this is the long-term goal of Marxists in America, to infiltrate Marxist principles in every sector of society so that the whole country becomes a Marxist state willingly and step by step. But by persecuting individuals and making them break down and make these shameful confessions for having done and said nothing. And if you love your job more than your freedom, you'll end up just bucking to the system. If you're totally mind controlled, you'll never think of supporting an organization that opposes the revolution, because your only concern is practicing groupthink and going along with political correctness. I hope that's not the case with our listeners, but it's the case now with more and more Americans.
Yeah. Let's see. How does one free society from such a dangerous mind control program?
Okay, so it's, I'll tell you as an anthropologist, because that's what I'm trained in, it's very difficult when the entire culture is distorted or perverted, okay? Because the culture is like the water a fish swims in. And if in your life you never meet anything but error, you won't have any idea what the truth is, okay? So the first thing is getting information that runs counter to the current, okay? And shows you what real fresh water is like. And that's why you need independent media, and I think independent Catholic media, because we draw from the fonts of Christ's truth, and we have loyalty to no one. So I think Ordo Militaris Radio is a good way, and there are a lot of media outlets that in one way or the other. But getting informed is only the first thing. You have to take actions, and we need institutions in this country that are completely free of narrative control, groupthink, thought control, and political correctness. We need private schools, okay? We need all kinds of private institutions. We certainly need private military academies, because once they take over our armed forces, then there's no hope left. They'll have all the power to exterminate us. We need to train our own people to defend themselves. And we need to encourage everyone to stand up for liberty. These legal defense organizations don't even do half as much. I don't hear of any of them running to defend these people. So, and we need ministers who are going to speak the truth boldly and not buckle under this kind of crap, excuse my language. So it needs to be a united, continual effect. Fathers and mothers need to teach their children not to buckle down to this stuff. You need to homeschool so that your children are not brainwashed. Putting a child in public school today in most of America means your child's going to grow up to be a communist and a sexual pervert, because that's the purpose of publication now, to sexually abuse your child and to turn them into a communist and to an atheist, and someone who will report on you to the authorities. That's the whole purpose of public education, because it's almost been entirely taken over. The teachers associations are completely Marxist organizations run by perverts. And so it has to be a united action on all fronts. But people need to wake up and smell the coffee and stop just lamenting about the problem. And don't let people on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or any other social media platform tell you to stop taking actions. But take reasonable, calculated, rational, forward-looking, proactive decisions, okay, to guarantee that you are free from groupthink and of mind control, that your children and your family are, that you have the economic independence not to depend on institutions that are controlled by these freaks. And if that requires you to move to another town, state, do it, okay? And support organizations that are for liberty, okay? And I'm not saying libertarians, because the libertarians are in favor of all kinds of spiritual and moral enslavement and perversion. They claim to be for liberty, but they're not really for liberty. The only people who can truly be for liberty are Christians who believe that Jesus Christ is the only God, the only Savior, and the only Lord, and the source of all truth, and not men, okay? Obedience to men can never justify disobedience to Christ on anything, nor the denial of reality or the enslavement of others, which is what these people are about. And we have to be boldly and openly anti-Marxist, and we have to admit that the Marxists now control our country and almost all our institutions. We can see it from the lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
What government resisted the lockdown? Only those towns are not controlled by Marxists, and they were very few, and amazingly, they weren't in all the states you thought they were. A lot of Republican states went along with the lockdown, okay? So when it comes time to elect an elected official, you need to ask him what he thinks about Marxism in America and the lockdown. If he doesn't come out and boldly attack these things, don't waste your vote on him, okay? And if a town votes someone who's totally in favor of these, get out of that town, because those people are crazy. They don't know reality, and they'll come for you when it comes for Marxist revolution. So we have to take a very strong response to this, because the time is now growing short. The Marxists have a lot more power than they had 70 years ago, and they're aiming for complete totalitarian state in the United States. And the Democrats aren't going to save you, and the Republicans are not going to save you. Both those organizations and most Christian churches are not going to save you. They all went along with it. They're all willing to obey it, okay? Because they are not putting Christ first in their thought, in their will, in their hearts, in their minds, in their plans, okay? They don't even look at the public order anymore on the basis of Christian faith. They believe that politics, public policy, laws, all these things should be run without any reference to Christ. And so they're making a pagan nation, and paganism will fall to the demons, because paganism is the implicit worship of demons.
Yep. This has been a very great, eye-opening show, and I hope that you like it when you hear it, watch it later on. Please share it with your friends, family, neighbors, relatives, priests, everyone. This show needs to be heard, seen. It'll be up on BitChute, YouTube, Mixcloud, and we'll also be playing 24/7 on the radio station.
Well, thank you, AJ, for having me on for this important topic. We covered a lot of ground, and I think it's really important. As someone, I'm a friend, as a Franciscan and as an anthropologist, it's something I've wanted to talk about for the longest time, and almost no one talks about this and how evil it is. Christ Jesus is the truth, and if we love the truth, we have to hate groupthink with all our hearts.
You've been listening to Order Militarist Radio TV. Go to ordo-militaris.net. Click any of the show topic pages, information posts. Scroll all the way down to the bottom. You'll see make a free will monthly subscription. You scroll down just a little bit further. There's a bluish green button. Click that. Follow the steps to become a subscriber. We need you to subscribe, and please go over to the radio website. And if you have a blog that can do HTML script, just put that code in there and help us grow our listeners through your readers. Help us to break the barriers, censors.
The barriers of groupthink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This way, truth can be learned either by them reading what you write or by what we say.
Mhm. I want to thank, in particular, the one listener of Ordo Militaris Radio who in the last 2 weeks has made a pledge of 20 a month. Very appreciative. But AJ is doing a lot of work, and if you want good probing like this to continue, you need to support, because we're spending a lot more than that a month just paying all the fees to keep this website going.
Yeah.
And so I don't have an income. AJ is in the below the poverty line. If you want this kind of truth getting out there, you're going to need to support it. Otherwise, if we run out of funds, then we will go silent. So, and the more we speak the truth, the more we're going to probably have to upgrade and move things around to eventually, our goal is to have our own servers delivering this information so no one can shut us down.
Yeah.
So if you want this truth, please make a pledge, a monthly pledge at the bottom of any show at ordo-militaris.net. There's a button there, you make a pledge, and a small monthly pledge. Even if you only want to pledge $5 a month, okay, which isn't much, that's only $60 a year. But the more pledges we have, help us produce the program and pay for the equipment, okay? So, and pay for all these expenses to do the transmission. So I want to thank that one person pledging, and I encourage others to make a monthly pledge. And your pledge is processed through Stripe, not through PayPal. And you can use any kind of credit or debit card.
This has been Ordo Militaris Radio TV, signing off. Deus Vult.
Deus